Virgo, this is your week ahead astrology forecast by Astrology Motivation from Born Without Boundaries. In these weekly videos, I review the major planetary aspects and transits and tell you how they're going to impact your natal sun, if at all, and what that means for your bottom line. All you need to know to enjoy these videos is your birth date. That's it. I translate everything else for you. We're going to start really broad with the big stuff that everybody should be aware is happening, as in like global. And then I'm going to focus things down into Virgo-specific subjects, topics, information. And then we're going to move into the 3 decans of Virgo. And that's how I'm going to be able to understand how everything in the cosmos right now, or the main events in the cosmos right now, are impacting your natal sun. The decans are a group of 10 degrees, and there are 3 of them in every zodiac sign. So understanding where your natal sun is located tells me what aspect it's forming to these other planets. And so that will let me know how it's impacting your life. Now, what if you don't know exactly where your natal sun is located in the zodiac sign of Virgo? That's okay, because I will be translating all the degrees into estimated birth date ranges, so you'll know where your birth date fits in. And if there are specific birth dates that are going to be affected, I will definitely call them out too. So have no fear. This is the astrology forecast for July 28th through August 3rd, 2023. I have everything written down. That's what I'm looking at. This is definitely for Virgo suns. Remember, it's how it's impacting your Virgo, your sun sign. It's not your moon sign or your rising sign. Just an FYI. Let's start out with the big stuff, shall we, Virgo? On August 1st, there's going to be a full moon in Aquarius. And it's interesting because it's square to Jupiter, which means Jupiter, all week long, Jupiter is square to the sun. And that's another big thing. And what does that mean? It's getting ahead of ourselves. It's wanting something so bad, we might act selfishly in order to get it. It's definitely optimistic, but it's kind of optimism with an edge, because there is a sense of maybe you're being a little too optimistic and you're too big for your britches. So there are challenges that come to this otherwise optimistic energy, but that's the configuration that the sun is in when the moon goes into Aquarius. At about 9-10 degrees Aquarius, I believe the moon is going to be at its fullest. That happens on August 1st, and that means the full moon is square to Jupiter too. And what is moon square Jupiter? Sometimes you have trouble knowing. It's almost like in some ways you're kidding yourself. Your optimism is a little bit over optimistic. And this full moon is in Aquarius. So what does that mean? Social issues? What could come out around this full moon? Truth about ways that we fooled ourselves, or been a little bit too optimistic, or gotten ahead of ourselves, or said we were doing it for the grander cause when really we were doing it for ourselves. All those kind of things can be revealed around this full moon. Now, that doesn't mean that this full moon isn't a good time to release and let go. And it is, especially issues with friends or clubs or groups that you belong to, issues with feelings of being odd or peculiar. All of those things should and can be released now. Jupiter's just going to make it bigger and more visible, and maybe even more global on some level. Just an FYI, on the 28th, which is today, if you're watching this when this video debuts, Mercury moves into Virgo. Now, Mercury is your ruling dignitary, and it going into Virgo is actually a very good thing. It's a stabilizing thing. Mercury in Virgo helps us basically compartmentalize everything and put everything into its orderly place. It's a very pragmatic energy, and it loves to learn and to know. And its communications are direct and to the point. They could be in some ways very, very forthright, but also very practical. They'll have sense behind it. Now, another big aspect that's happening this week is that Mercury is going to be opposite Saturn by the 29th. So almost as soon as it moves into Virgo, it's going to be opposite Saturn. The good news for that is that Mars isn't going to be opposite Saturn anymore. And I'd rather have Mercury opposite Saturn than Mars opposite Saturn. Mars opposite Saturn could lead to such levels of resentment and restriction that we feel almost depressed or at least have anxiety attacks. So this has been a rough patch with Mars opposite Saturn. But with Mercury opposite Saturn, there are topics that come up globally, like topics like restriction of speech, restriction of education, restriction of information. But what is that information that has been restricted? And Mercury is objective enough, not like Mars. Mars is all action, which is why restriction, it just can't handle it. But Mercury is objective, and so it can dig down and not take things so personally and say to Saturn, okay, but why? What are all these rules, regulations supposed to do, and what are you hoping to get out of them, and how do you want me to make this work? And it's a much more practical way. It's a much more practical opposition than Mars opposite Saturn. And it doesn't last as long either. It will last throughout this week, but by the end of this week, I think it's by August 6th, that opposition will dissipate too. And that's a very good thing. Now, between the 28th and 29th, Mercury is also going to be conjunct to Venus still. This is an interesting conjunction because it's square to Uranus, which is very mischievous. It's very much, I want to switch things up and I want to rebel. And how interesting that Mercury is square to Uranus just a day before it goes into opposition with Saturn. There could be some information coming out that is really challenging the standards, the norms, and the rules and regulations. Just an FYI. Personally, what this means, especially when Mercury is conjunct to Venus and they're both square to Uranus, is that things get a little topsy-turvy, especially when it comes to romantic relationships and things that you say or talking to people online in ways that maybe you shouldn't, or your spouse is doing it. This is kind of like a Midsummer Night's Dream, where everybody ends up falling in love with the wrong people that are actually the right people, but it's like the world has to be turned on its head to see the right direction. And that's kind of what is happening over these next couple of days. We also have Mars trine to Jupiter. Yes, while the moon is full, Mars is going to be trine to Jupiter. While Jupiter all week long is square to the sun. This is impulsive energy, but also optimistic energy, saying, I just got to take this shot because I'm tired of being held back. And so I'm going to take action, even if it's not smart. So we may not be making the wisest decisions right now, but ultimately we want progress. And so we're taking chances. Just an FYI. Let's go into Virgo specific information. Now, how do I look at Virgo specific information? First of all, what's happening in Virgo, the zodiac sign of Virgo? Second of all, what's going on with Mercury, which is your ruling dignitary? Well, in the zodiac sign of Virgo, we have two planets. We have Mars, and Mars has been there, and it's going to travel between 11 and 15 degrees Virgo, which means it is conjunct to Virgo 2s, those people with their sun in the second decan of Virgo, and I'll be more specific about that in a sec. We also have Mercury transiting into Virgo on the 29th or by the 29th. So it's moving between 27 degrees Leo and 7 degrees Virgo. So it'll end up 7 degrees Virgo. So basically it's in the first decan of Virgo all of this week. And like I said, you guys at the cusp of Virgo and Leo, you'll feel the thud. You'll feel it the most when a new planet enters. It's the cusps that really feel it the most. It's a good thing because Mercury will be conjuncting your natal suns, and we'll be talking about that in just a sec. Now, what is Mercury doing? So we already talked about Mercury is coming home. It's transiting into Virgo. Interestingly enough, because this week ends on August 3rd, by the 23rd of August, that means in less than a month from the end of this week, so about a month from the beginning of this week, Mercury is going to go into retrograde again. And just so that you know, Venus will still be in retrograde when Mercury goes into retrograde. Slow down, guys. Slow down. Because there is really nothing that we can do right now to speed this shit up. I'm just letting you guys know. But before then, Mercury is still moving. It's still going. It's still moving along. It is in opposition to Saturn, which is big. It can deal with feeling like you can't speak, feeling like you're not being heard, feeling like information is being held back, or feeling like you have to be more discerning when it comes to who you share information with or who you trust it from. Just an FYI. We also have the moon opposite to Mercury on the 3rd. So at the very end of this week, the moon is going to be opposite Mercury. This is going to be very emotional stuff coming out, emotional conversations, stuff bubbling up, information bubbling up, finding yourself kind of speaking emotionally when maybe even inappropriately. It can be just basically... it's your mind and your heart in complete conflict with each other. That's the 3rd. On the 30th, Mercury is conjunct to Venus, and it ends on the 30th. That conjunction ends on the 30th. So what does that mean? It means a lot of fun. It means this week there's a lot of playful energy, poetic energy, very beautiful energy, very attractive energy, especially attraction through conversation and through what somebody knows. So it could very well be that there's a lot of flirting going on this week. Just an FYI. Who you may be flirting with, not quite sure. Like that could cause you some trouble, just letting you know. You also have Mercury trine the North Node and sextile to the South Node. So there is opportunities that are coming through your comfort zones or where you've come from or partnership, as it were, because the South Node is in Libra, that is helping you to harmonize and to heal where you're going in the future, or at least feel a little bit more comfortable with it. Or a little bit more comfortable with yourself, as it were, because the North Node is in Aries. Let's go into the decads. So if you know your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Virgo, you are Virgo ones because your natal sun is in the first decan of Virgo. This correlates to August Virgos. So if you're born between the 22nd of August and the 31st of August, you're pretty much a Virgo one. You're a Leo cusp. This is absolutely you. It's your natal suns that are going to be conjunct to Mercury all week. That's a good thing. It means that your brain and your ego are in sync and that you can speak with confidence and hopefully with competence. There is a sense of courage that comes with everything that you say, as well as authority that comes with everything that you say. It could also be a very creative time when you experience creative bursts when it comes to written or spoken word. If you were in a creative or communications job, this will be a very, very good week for you. It's a great time to articulate yourself and come up with new ideas. Cusps only. Only if you are Leo cusp. So you're born, say, the 22nd, 23rd of August. Your natal suns are going to be trine to the North Node and sextile to the South Node. So it's specifically you guys, as Mercury is conjunct your natal suns. And all this is happening to Mercury. It's going to be happening to your natal suns too. So this is definitely a time when some partnership that you have can lead to sort of a portal or an opening or feeling better about the future or sort of getting a better glimpse as to what you want it to look like. And make you feel better about yourself and make you feel more certain about who you are. And then we have the opposition to Saturn. So basically everything Mercury's experiencing this week, you guys are, because Mercury is conjunct your natal sun. But your opposition to Saturn is also about feeling restricted or feeling a lot of pressure, feeling a lot of need to take on maybe an authority role even if you don't feel ready for it, or feeling like laws, rules, and regulations are really irritating you. And this could be sort of the catalyst for why you kind of decide to mix things up and figure out, are we really doing something as effectively as we can be? Whether it be in your partnerships or at work, it doesn't really matter. You're kind of getting sick of the same old, same old. Just an FYI. Let's move on to Virgo 2s. So if you know that your natal sun is between 10 and 19 degrees Virgo, you are Virgo 2s. This correlates to birthdays between September 1st and the 10th. Your natal suns are conjunct to Mars. And thank God that agitating and really horrible opposition to Saturn is going to be over. This will feel like a weight lifting off of your shoulders. You won't feel as depressed or anxious ridden anymore. In fact, your energy levels may return and you might get some of your stamina back, because Mars conjunct your natal sun gives you that kind of stamina and physical prowess to really trust your body and let your body do the thinking for you right now, because it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a nice energy. It's an aggressive energy, but it's also a progressive energy. So this could really help out a lot. It's a good time to be physical and get into your body, including sexuality. Just an FYI. All week long, your natal suns are going to be trying to Jupiter. And conjunct Mars trying to Jupiter, any action that you take right now and for the next week or so is going to be blessed. So you should let your body guide you. You should take the initiative. You should take the incentive. But the initiative is important, Virgo, because initiative is everything to Mars. And that's going to bring out that good luck because of its trine to Jupiter. So definitely use that energy and definitely trust your instincts, not impulses, but instincts, because Mars is very instinctual. And I'm telling you right now, anything that you step into and take incentive on, you're going to have a lot of fortune that comes from it. We have your natal sun's quincunx to the full moon, which could be a little bit agitating for you or stir up some emotions that you did not expect. Just an FYI. And they're in a long-term quincunx to Chiron, which means there's already struggle here when it comes to feeling like you're held back, or ways in which you can't make progress or feel not good enough. All of those things have been trigger points for you already and will continue to be so for the next at least a few months till the end of this year. Especially for those of you born around August 9th or 10th, toward the end of the second decan. Because Chiron is the quincunx is going to be in tightest with you guys. So I mean, there's just more triggers when it comes to how you feel things are moving in general, or how you feel that you feeling not important, or feeling like you can't get things done, or feeling like somehow you're always handicapped. Not literally, but it could also be that because Chiron is in Aries, you feel like maybe your individuality is stifled, or your physical self has been running more exhausted lately. But I can tell you, with this conjunction to Mars and this trine to Jupiter, this is really more optimism than you've experienced for a while, and you should definitely trust where your optimism is pointing you. FYI. So, Virgo 3s. If you know your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Virgo, you're Virgo 3s. This correlates to birthdays between the 10th and the 21st of September. So right up to that Libra cusp. Libra cuspers would be, say, the 21st, 22nd could be, if you were still Virgo on the 22nd, even the 20th. So right up to that Libra cusp. It's really just the big stuff that's impacting you now, and this has been long term, so it's kind of back to basics right now for you guys. You have a long-term opposition to Neptune, which means that there could be some fogging in the head when it comes to a lot of fairy tale beliefs, or a lot of delusions, or a lot of like being easily distracted, or more easily distracted than normal. A good thing to do with this opposition is to find yourself water and be around water as much as possible. It will actually help to ground you, where normally you're an earth sign and earth is going to help to ground you. Get yourself kind of somewhere between the earth and the land, because that will really help you bridge that gap with that Neptunian energy constantly working on you. But being creative is also going to be a wonderful thing, as well as getting in touch with your psychic energies and psychic abilities. We also have a long-term trine to Pluto, which has been going on. I talk to you about this every week. This is really getting comfortable with the darker side of life and the more mysterious and darker unknown things. So there is that sense of maybe being more interested in the occult. Not that you should be, but that you'll find yourself drawn there. But in a good way, in a healing way, in this sense of I'm getting more comfortable with those aspects of who I am, because it is trine your natal sun. This also means being in harmony with this metamorphosis, having sort of that butterfly period that's happening. You're expanding and you're changing in ways that might be even a mystery to you with that opposition to Neptune. And so you just have to have faith. This is a wonderful time dealing with both Neptune and Pluto to find your sense of faith again. And then we have a trine to Taurus, a trine to, not Taurus. Hold on a second. I'm trying to remember the chart. A trine to Uranus. That's what I wrote down. It's Uranus in Taurus. I apologize. So this is long term as well. And you know what that means? Odd, unusual things. Things that interest you that never interested you before. Not being what anybody expects you to be, and really claiming your independence and individuality. Virgo 3s, of all the Virgos, you guys are going through the most transformative energy right now, and you could be at the heart and soul of discovering the way for other people to transform too. This is really beautiful and powerful energy, but it needs to work through faith, because Uranus doesn't like to be predicted. Neptune cannot be predicted. And good luck trying to figure out Pluto. All of this is going to put you in kind of an uncomfortable position until you get comfortable with not being in control. And then you start to maybe put things into order based on just what you've experienced and what you've learned, and that could help others. So you let me know in the comments below, guys. I love you so much. Please do come over to Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your week ahead tarot card reading. And then subscribe to this channel to help us grow over here. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.